getting this signal. We're live. It's Tuesday at 7.
7:01.
7:01. Yeah, close enough. Today we're having kind of a laid back, perhaps it's laid back, and we'll have to reevaluate it.
It's pretty laid back, sitting up, not really laying back, but
yeah.
Sitting upward-ish.
And you can evaluate if you're playing this over and whether we're laid back or sitting up at the end of the conversation. But if you are joining and you find it a willing venture to share, you can share out to a group, you can share out to an individual, you can share out to your friends list. But everybody who shares will be put into a drawing for a giveaway next week, and this is stuff that Rick's brought. But what we're gonna do is start off like we do just about every week, and that is we're gonna give away an original piece of artwork from the artist we had last week.
Oh, cool.
Dot Von Schneider is a writer for C Magazine. She interviewed last week, and she does a lot of unique things, including making her own paint. But she donated a piece of artwork for those who were looking. She was out in the desert, and look at the stories out there, but she also created some paintings, used soil, and this was inspired by tarantula burrows. And she was down there, and she kind of looked at one, noticed it, and then kind of looked around and realized that she was surrounded by them. So
that's what those are, huh?
Yeah, so you have tarantula burrows.
I wouldn't have painted it. I would have just threw fire on it and ran.
Yeah.
I hate spiders.
Agreed.
So, Dot, thank you for this. What I'm going to do is just have you draw a name out for the winner for Dot, the Magic Hat.
Hey, Richard Thomas.
Richard Thomas.
No, Jamie Lee Chambers.
There you go. So Jamie Lee Chambers. We'll make sure we get your address and get this over to you. Thanks for sharing. And again, for anybody today who shares, what do you got? You got
like I said, I mentioned before, I'm cleaning up a lot of stuff, so I was really trying to find some 8x10s or something like that was whatever. But I have a beanie hat of my other band Ventana because it's winter time, and one of each of our CDs. So if you're not familiar with the band, this is a nice little package here for you. Because it's the other band that I do aside from Mushroomhead, if you aren't aware.
Well, they'll be aware tonight after we get to talk through that. Did you have a chance to share?
No, I didn't.
So
let me be a typical American and stare at my phone while socializing.
Yeah. So again, thank you all for joining in. I know that there's some sharing going out so that folks can watch it live. Remember, if you're watching this live, we're going to be taking questions, and so that's why we want this to be an interactive interview and experience. Beth, are you signaling anything over there?
No, just that I shared.
Oh, thank you. So, in case you don't know,
Richard Thomas is watching.
Yeah.
Oh,
right. We're in the theater here in our basement. I don't know that we've interviewed anybody in here. Yeah, but the furnace was real loud in the other room, so we figured we were in here for that reason. But again, ask questions, and as they come in, Beth, who is kind of keeping an eye on the phone/camera, will kind of shoot those out at the appropriate times.
Cool. So I got one page down onto the fan.
There you go. I think women multitask way better than men, but
I'm big on the spell check, So I usually have to write it and then proof it. I don't want to write the wrong "your" or the wrong "to."
That's awkward.
Richard was telling me that he is from North Royalton as well. That he grew up, how far from here in terms of mileage?
From literally where you're at here, maybe 3 miles. Royalton Woods is where I grew up.
Everybody is got some kind of Royalton cut.
I definitely have cut through the woods and hung around in this area a few times as a kid, for sure.
Very cool.
But yeah, I grew up in North Royalton. Now I live in Middleburg Heights. My parents live in Brecksville now.
Cool.
Not Brecksville, Broadview Heights. It's almost Brecksville. It's
Same
like right
difference.
at that border over there.
So we're going to start the interview off with a very important question. And folks who know Mushroomhead and know Rick and probably also have kept an eye on your special effects and your hunting history.
Yeah.
So the question is makeup or masks? And then, why you would choose that.
Yeah. It's a question that comes up a lot now because obviously my opinion has changed over the years. Growing up, I was obsessed with learning makeup since the age of 12, learning how to make cuts on my face and freaking my mom out when she come home from work. Always been into makeup, latex, stuff like that, special effects. I remember back in the day, I'd get the blood view 6 hours early just to do makeup on my chest to make it look like it was spread open with wires and all that stuff, and I loved doing it. Now that I help manage and run a haunted house, I've found that, especially when it's super hot and humid in your haunt starting off, that makeup just falls off, it wipes off. Some actors have no idea what the concept of touching up your makeup means. Like, it'll be falling off their face and they'll just roll with it, or it'll be gone, oh, my makeup fell off, and they don't know how to fix it. And unless you are an attraction that can hire lots of makeup artists to do quality control on that, I found that it's very easy to come up with cool original masks that kind of fit the theme and allow people that can do makeup to do it themselves. Because one thing I ran into too is we'd hire a makeup artist and he or she would be putting 20 actors in makeup.
Yeah.
They can only be so good within a 2-hour time frame. I mean, eventually it turns into white face, black eyes, and some blood on them. And it's and to me, they still look like a kid with some makeup on them. And they can't sell how to make. I mean, I could throw a pair of contacts in and throw my shirt off the hinder and act the fool all night. But the mask, when it's done right, just completely transforms them, makes them genderless, ageless, everything, to where it's more unnatural. You don't see their perfectly done haircut or their gauged ears or their neck tattoos or whatever. So, as a haunt, manager angle, I've just found that it's a lot easier to do masks. And Vaughn, the main owner at Chippewa Lake Slaughterhouse, has turned me on to that as well. At first, he bought all CFX and Immortal masks and stuff like that, and those look great, but they're very expensive.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have 46 people wearing $1,000 mask. So we've come up with ways to make things cheap and inexpensive and not look store-bought, making it very original. So I'm half and half. I love special effects makeup. I myself can pull it off. There's other people that can pull it off. But for the general masses of a haunted house, it's just found it easier to just, okay, all you gotta do is black out your eyes, black out your neck. Here we go. Done in 5 minutes. Get out there, and it looks the same all night long. And we found it to be very effective. Because again, someone might look petite and small and not really scary, but then you do a couple things, burlap sack, some dirty coveralls, and now they're creepy.
And it takes the pressure off of them, especially if they're newer into a haunt,
right?
Because they can now focus on their acting and why they're there, as opposed to trying to hide the fact that they're a 17-year-old.
Absolutely, and just being in Mushroomhead and in Mask Band for 19 years of my life, I always have had stage fright. So when I wear a mask, you're able to just transform a lot more. That's why I can never do an act without contact lenses. It's there was shows we've played where I lost my contact lenses and I just felt like an ass on stage. Even though I had the mask on and the whole costume, I'm just I don't feel right because I know my eyes aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing when I'm glaring at people and stuff like that. So,
that's a really interesting piece there. So early childhood. I mean, I think a lot of us who like the effects, we're probably dabbling in some type of special effects or something. We're goofing around with the kids in our family. You find yourself at Bloodview at what age, or was there other things?
Age, I was 14.
Okay.
My mom had to sign a parental consent back then. I don't know if they still do that if you're underage, but yeah, my mom would drop me off, and because we had gotten flyers through the middle school from Bloodview, like they would always hit the schools. Yeah. And to me, I was a nerdy kid with no friends that liked, you know, heavy metal and, you know, was into dark, gloomy stuff and horror movies. So, like, I was the nerd with, like, no connection. So then, like, there was something like that where it's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then I met other friends through that and other people with, you know, similar interests, which was awesome. So it was like almost you had a place to belong. So I spent a lot of time at Bloodview in my early, you know, years. I'd always be up there volunteering to help clean or tear out the old rooms. I remember tearing out that old room haunt that they had forever, and I remember like coughing up black dust for like a month after that. But me and my other friends back then, we would just volunteer all of our time to like help make things better, and just it was cool to like be a part of that. And it's cool to transition that, and now that I'm older, and actually make a kind of a living off that, you know, as well. A lot of that early, you know, experience from there, and it all started at Bloodview.
And so, Bloodview, set building, visual effects, take us from there to musician. You get some background with music, and then how does that launch to playing music for, you know, in front of folks?
Okay, so I was doing that for a while, and then from there, me and a couple of my friends, we jumped to a few other haunts as we got older. Started taking our, you know, talents other places, and then I started working for Carnival of Horrors, which was in Medina County, and right about that time was the time that I had joined Mushroomhead in 2001, which was a crazy change to my life right off the rip, going from a fan to working for them to all of a sudden you're in the band. It was really surreal. I remember telling my mom, like, "Hey, Mom, I'm in Mushroomhead now." Like, it was really, really strange because it was like, I can't believe I'm saying this, and that kind of changed my life completely from there. Before then, I also was in a couple of local bands that aren't really anything at all worth mentioning.
But probably necessary even just to build that confidence and the...
Right, yeah. I mean, I was in high school, you know, I was in a rap metal band called Downfall of Society. And then I was in a band that was kind of like a Deftones style sounding band called Canister. And I started off as a DJ, turntables, mixing. Then I got into sampling. And then I started dabbling with synthesizers and stuff like that. And that was about the time that Skinny from Mushroomhead approached me to join Mushroomhead. And I joined as their samplist, you know, DJ. And I helped with, you know, some other stuff, you know, help with costuming or, you know, things like that, and you know, paint masks, stuff like that, and just helping come up with ideas here and there.
Visual.
You know, well, I don't do all, and I'm saying
Right,
I'm not trying to take credit for it, but I definitely help with that angle.
Yeah. So sampler.
Yeah. That's what they call it.
Is that what they...
Well, yeah, because, I mean, years ago, now that with computers and the way a lot of people use tracks, it's not really as big of a thing, but before you'd have, like, these, you know, sampler rigs with, like, pads and, like, sounds, like, in between, you know, songs, or, like, bass drops and these different pads and different, you know, movie samples and things like that, so they would call it, oh, the sampler of the band, or they'd be, like, adding, like, wacky effects and sounds to things, you know, live. Not so much live now. Now I just focus more on being crazy and jumping around and having most of that stuff sequenced, you know, and I do like the water drum thing in Mushroomhead now. That's a big visual part of our show. So the sampling and the other stuff kind of took a little bit of a backseat, and I just helped more with the visual performance live.
Yeah. So your stage moniker with Mushroomhead is Stitch.
It was way before the Disney movie.
Okay, so is that, what's the story behind
it? That was my haunted house name.
Okay, Stitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before, everyone used to call me Stick because I was so scrawny and skinny growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Took me a while to grow into my head. My neck was like the size of my wrist, but it went from Stick to Stitch because I'd always be such a crazy haunted house actor. I'd always be hurting myself.
Yeah.
And then one day, you know, someone just called me Stitch on accident, and it just kind of stuck. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a cool haunt name, because everyone had like their cool, creepy haunt names, you know. And I never had one, so that kind of just transitioned into when I joined the band, Skinny's like, hey, what's your name going to be? And I'm like, Stitch, I guess, you know, so that's where that came from. And then that damn Disney movie came out 2 years later. And, you know, it's funny because there's people that do art now, and I get like fan art, and it's like me, but it's Stitch, but it's the character from Disney dressed up. It's funny, it's cute, it works, but yeah, had nothing to do with the movie. Just had to do with me hurting myself all the time and having to always get numerous stitches and getting wounds glued back together.
We had someone say they were having trouble hearing. Can you see if anybody else is saying the same thing? That's why I'm kind of scooting forward a little bit.
Yeah. So if anybody else is having that same issue, let us know.
And I'll keep.
I'm not sure. At times, I think even that there's a Wi-Fi, which is right back here, by the way. But sometimes that's an issue too. So let us know if you still have trouble hearing.
And Kevin McMullen says you need makeup with that mug you have on your shoulders.
I'm aware.
Ha 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 ha.
I'm aware.
I don't know if that's a friend, but
I know.
So you are brought on. You're brought into the band, and you're brought in as a sampler, let's say, or I mean, I'm sure you're doing a whole lot more than that. But you were brought in. You were now part of the band. Where was your look? Because when I think of Mushroomhead, they're so visual, and the visual draw is so great to me. Again, I'm a visual artist, and so that's my draw. Where did your look start, and how did your first persona, how did your first look on stage come about?
Well, when we first started off, it was at the point where the look had changed to what everyone knows now as the X-Face. But back then everyone had the same latex mask that Dave Greathouse, which you know Dave Greathouse,
yeah,
he made that first mask of ours, which was just the black head with the white eyes. It kind of was like modeled kind of off the Grendel Venom comic book kind of thing. And then we all just had the same look. Then the video Solitaire Unraveling got filmed, and Skinny had a pair of those World War II headphones that he had just brought for the video. They weren't really a part of my look yet. And the director, Dean Carr, he grabbed them, and he's like, oh, well, you're the digital sample guy? So he's like, threw them on my head and grabbed like a spool of baling wire and just like wrapped it all around my head. It was so tight, like it hurt, but I just dealt with it because I'm like, this is Dean Carr. I'm just going to go with it, you know. I'm doing a, $200,000, quarter of $250,000 music video here. I'm just going to roll with this.
Roll with it.
And then that became my signature look now that's almost on everything is the headphones with the wire. But right around then, I said it was very much the same look, and then everyone started getting little things of their own. Like Skinny had the dreadlocks, and then, one guy had, a helmet on, or, it just changed to like different things. Then the next few album cycles, it started becoming more individualized, and then we started getting more of the characters going on, and then my mask started evolving. Dave Greathouse did the masks for the next album cycle, which we all had more identifiable characters. We had the pig bass player, and then mine had the more skull head kind of look. And then from there, we on this last album cycle, we had used Jason Kisner, another mask maker locally. Dave Greathouse became insanely busy with his movies and constantly out of town. God bless him, super talented, but he wasn't able to focus in on what we needed, you know what I mean? And it worked having someone that lives down the street that can constantly come by with a sculpt, and we go, change this, change that, perfect, go. And he's done really well, but that's when we went way more advanced with the look, and then my mask became the one where it's like the open jaw with the fangs, and then the mask just became more, characterized from then. So it's definitely constantly going through an evolution timeline, and we're working on the new masks now, and they're even more elaborate from the last look. So
yeah,
it's always evolving, it's always changing. Skinny's a very visual person, as well as myself and other people, and we always want it to look badass because it's It has to. I mean, if you're a costume band, you got to own it. You know, you can't just half-ass it. You know, so it's always evolving, always changing. Right now, we're doing a look we're just doing like those devil faces, and that was kind of inspired from video game BioShock, where like these there's a characters, the splicers, and they have like these masquerade masks. But there was this one that was like devil face, and it was kind of inspired from that. But that's just something we're doing now as a transition.
Right.
Because we had some member changes. So when like member changes come in the middle of your album cycle, it's like, well, we don't want to just rush their look or their character. So we all just kind of go neutral to buy us time. Oh. So it's just a transitional look. And like, it's funny because fans like, oh, they either love it or they hate it. And it's like, who cares? You know, do whatever we want.
The transitional pattern's kind of cool too. They're like, oh, so what's changing? And
yeah, we did that years ago too. And Dave Greathouse, he made these baby doll heads, and we used that as our transitional look. People really hated that one because we were dressing like almost like perverts, almost like we had like the trench, like the trench coats, and like it would look like we weren't wearing pants underneath it, and there's just big baby heads, and it was just like done to be weird and silly. And some people got it, and some people were like, what the hell is going on with Mushroomhead? And then the next album cycle was back to something more crazy and elaborate. So keeping people guessing is fun.
What would you say is, I know it's going to be purely a guess, how many, being a visual band, right, and having, some really, would you call it, how would you categorize the music, or how's Mushroomhead categorized, or does it go beyond categories music-wise?
People ask that all the time. They're like, what kind? Oh, it's like they haven't heard. Like, oh, what's it sound like? What kind of style? And I hate always saying it's a metal band because it's not. I feel like Mushroomhead kind of touches like almost every subject out there as far as style of music. So it's really hard to categorize it. It's not industrial. It's not metal. It's not rock. It's just its own thing.
Fusion of, yeah.
I feel like Mushroomhead's always been in its own thing. The only other band that I ever can compare it to is Faith No More. I think that's the closest thing that you can say Mushroomhead sounds like. With the keyboards and the heavy parts to the melodic parts. Every song's kind of a different style, much like Faith No More. Obviously, we're all big fans of that band.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're an inspiration as well. But that's the closest band that I could ever compare it to. Or like I say, people like, we're a heavier Pink Floyd, or something like that, because it's hard to really... You say metal and some people are like, oh, whatever. But I think it's deeper than that, for sure.
Yeah. What are some of your other musical influences? I mean, and I love Faith No More as well.
Right.
And I listen to Faith No More.
It's always the go-to. Yeah. It's always the go-to. I went to the reunion show and it was awesome. Drove all the way to Philly for that one. But, I mean, the whole band listens to different styles.
Yeah.
Like, none of us... It's rare that all of us like the same thing. Everyone's got a different style. And that always transitions into the style of the music, because everyone's always into different things. Forgot where I was going with that.
Any other influences? So from you,
Yeah, me personally, I grew up loving industrial music. Grew up on the classics. Manson, Nine Inch Nails, KMFDM, Skinny Puppy. All kinds of stuff like that. And then nowadays, I listen to the 40s and 50s station. I feel like I'm going backwards. The older I get, I'm just like sick of listening to heavy music, and I'm just like, I don't need to hear another metal band. So now I'm like, I find myself going backwards to like the jazz and like the old big band stuff. And to me, that's inspirational. I'm still in my head trying to figure out a way to fuse that jazz music with industrial music, but properly, because I was talking to Tom, my guitar player in Ventana, and I'm like, man, I really want to find out a way that we can make like jazz industrial. Like, I don't know if that's been done yet.
Yeah.
So just that time signature and just, I don't know, just the way music used to be then. It had like so much passion compared to how stuff is now. And I mean, I can't like physically listen to another band that's just down-tuned guitars and screaming, because it's getting boring to me to listen to it,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Any questions out there?
there was a lot of KMFDM, Ministry, Pink Floyd, everybody kind of, with modern instruments, a lot of people agreeing kind of with your assessment about that it's not just loud and raucous music and the kind of the goals around the creativity of it. There are people who are having trouble seeing, and because we have 55 people watching right now.
Oh, that's excellent.
So I think that's the problem, is there's just a lot of people. So if anybody is having trouble seeing, apparently some people could only see your arm moving. But
you can see it, right?
Yeah, I can see it fine. I think they just needed to refresh. So if anybody's having trouble seeing, please refresh.
If you could see it on your end, it should be fine.
Yeah,
exactly.
Check on your phone and see if you can.
When I shared it looked completely clear.
Yeah, I think it's just some people jumped on while it was busy.
AOL dial-up.
Right?
Dial-up.
I like it. Some people did say hello. Let me see if I can scroll back down to...
yeah, I mean, it's crystal
Johnny.
clear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think some people just needed to refresh.
Tell them to get their shit together.
Exactly.
There you go.
Get your shit
Right
together.
from Rick's mouth.
Rick said. Bill Kays said he likes this.
He always likes this.
Okay.
I know Bill Kays.
And Dave Narutzowitz said, "What up?"
What up?
And
wherever you are.
I don't know. I assumed it was someone that knows you. Pantera After Party Forever.
Oh, okay. That's someone from Texas.
Okay. Hey, Texas.
Oh, wait. What's his name? Is it Dave?
Dave Narutzowitz.
Oh, from Vices. Okay, I know Dave. Yeah,
there you go, Dave.
We got that's a fun story. I can get into that.
Oh yeah.
We were in Texas, in Dallas, Texas. There's a venue called Trees. Love playing there. It's awesome. The drummer of Vanilla Ice actually owns it. His rock band now that he has. But Dave was in this band Vices that was on tour with us, and Vinnie Paul, he recently passed away. But this is about a year ago. He came to our show because he lives down there, and it's pretty awesome when you're in a band performing and someone that you look up to shows up. I mean, the drummer of Pantera is in the balcony filming your show on his phone, and comes in our dressing room and says, "Hey, can I get a picture with you guys?" It's like, huh? What the fuck are you talking about? So we were all giddy little kids.
Yeah.
So it was a bunch of us. We had the Pantera after party where we got completely hammered, and we were just listening to Pantera on the bus, and we literally just kept breaking out into mosh pits. And I jammed my thumb. I think he broke a finger. It got. They're just in the front lounge of the bus, breaking out into mosh pits, jumping off the seats, and just going ballistic. There was 12 of us or something in there, and it was awesome. It was just a fun time. That's what he's talking about.
That's very fun.
Share another memorable.
I have a question.
road
I have a legit question coming in first. Matthew Magnuson says, "Are you satisfied with how or where Mushroomhead is in the music world? And was there a time where, I don't know if this is about, it must be about Mushroomhead, had a chance to be more mainstream, and would you enjoy being a mainstream band?"
Well, that's a handful.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, Mushroomhead is very known, but we're still very underground at the same time. We're not Korn, we're not Rob Zombie, we're not Slipknot, unfortunately. So,
but you still have tens of millions of
right.
viewers.
We still got tons of fans. We got love all around the world, which is great. But would I like it to be bigger? Absolutely. I'd love to be where some of those bands are. It must be awesome to sell out an arena every single night when we're still playing club circuit. It's really undecided. It's not the band's decision to become more mainstream or to become more popular. Obviously, you want to be more popular. Is the whole point of being in a band to make a living. But there's good things are always happening. Thankfully for us, we just got added to a week of those Static X dates that are happening right now. They're doing the tribute to Wayne 20 years of Wisconsin Death Trip tour. And we just got added to that as direct support, which is great. I mean, because at least we know that we're still we're still in the running for things here and there. You know, or we'll get like the open air Chicago show, which was massive, playing in front of all those people, and like we played midday and we had the biggest crowd in front of us. Like after we played, everyone started trickling over to the main stage, and even though they still had bigger acts playing after us, like we were just always the showstopper, which is, you know, great as well, because we're always the underdog, and people always assume that like, oh, there's that other band that they're the Diet Slipknot or whatever people want to, you know, call it. But I think we always surprise people when we play those things. But yeah, we always got room to advance, which is nice. We never seem to go backwards. There's always something else in what we strive for to do.
And you just got off a tour just at the end of October here as well.
Yeah. That was just a States run. We tour every fall. We do the Halloween run. It usually ends in Cleveland with our big Halloween show. But yeah, we just wrapped that tour up, and it was good. Right now there's a lot of tours out there, so we were fine. And what really sucked is that this last tour that we did, a bunch of the cities we were in, we were playing against Tool. How the hell are you going to play against Tool? You know, so like, you know, some of the shows were like, man, we'd be getting a lot of feedback, like, man, the show would have did better if Tool wasn't playing 5 miles away, or, you know, In This Moment wasn't here the night before, or Korn wasn't here the night before. It was like, we definitely followed a lot of tours around this fall. But fans are always there, and they're always super excited, and they're always awesome. And we've been seeing a lot of younger fans coming out now, which is cool, because it's not just like people old like me. But it's a lot of fans now that have gotten older. Now their kids are 9, 10, and they've grown up seeing their parents. Oh, yeah, they love it. Now tomorrow's fan. Hopefully by the time they're in middle school, hopefully they're popular in school, and they get all their friends to come to the show. So, but yeah, that's the cool part, is that Mushroomhead always seems to be okay in terms of fans. Like, there's a lot of bands out there that have sold millions of records, but they can't draw a single body to come to a show anymore because they were a one-hit wonder, or they were a mainstream radio band, and they got a bunch of hype and then nothing. I mean, there's bands out there that have done way more than we have, and we outdraw them. Yeah. So it's hard to really gauge. You know, if you go full mainstream, you may never be able to stick with that reputation, you know. Because a lot of it does have to do with how much a label and a management is willing to put into, you know, a band. Yeah. You know, unfortunately, a lot of stuff in this world is pay to play. You know, so it's like, unless you're on that list of, like, you know, a lot of these artists that get huge, it's because a label dumped X amount of dollars into them, knowing that, okay, well, we're going to make sure that this is on the radio all day long, so it embeds in people's brains, and then they buy it. You know, but then those people really care to buy anything past the single? Usually not. You know, they care to see them in concert? Usually not. So we definitely have that advantage, which is nice.
How do the States compare to other parts of the world in terms of reception, in terms of reaction?
I do enjoy playing overseas a lot more. The fans are way crazier over there. It does remind me of the 90s over there. Like, they get in line early, they're dressed up, they're all about it, they're super excited, they're moshing. There's a lot of shows on this tour where I'm like, why is, in America, I'm like, why is the crowd, like, they're there, they're loud, they're excited, why are they all standing still watching the show through their phones? Like, that's all you see anymore. You go over, when we flew over Europe, people are crowd surfing, stage diving, moshing, like, hey, this is how we're supposed to do this, people. And they're way more appreciative because we don't go over there as often. Yeah. Lately, we've been going over there a lot. But the excitement over there is definitely higher. The crowds are about the same draw-wise. You know, we do about the same amount of people. But I don't know, I think because we tour so much in America, people just expect to see us every 6 months. You know, over there, they don't know if they'll ever see us again. Yeah. But yeah, playing places, you know, like Russia, Germany, Italy, you know, and like a lot of places in the UK as well. Like, it's awesome.
you play in any real strange places? Yeah, not strange. I'm just unexpected places. I guess would be the best way to put it. I mean, you're not playing in the North Pole, but you're playing where?
I can't really say
Unexpected.
I mean, unexpected. The only I don't know.
Did you play Asia at all?
We haven't. We're still waiting to get over and break into that market because we've been told by so many people that are like, "Do they would eat you guys up over there?" And like, you know, in the Asia markets. I think those are the plans moving forward into the future. But yeah, as of right now, like it's just, you know, we'd have to break that market, you know, because I don't even think we're distributed over there.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna take a different direction. Actually, I'm gonna take a couple steps back because you really caught my attention, both as hearing about you as a performer, as well as a visual artist, as well as an improv, a special effects makeup person. So, in the process of preparing for the show, you are putting in contacts. You are wearing a mask, touching up makeup, hiding whatever.
Right. Hiding all the skin.
What is that like from the time that, you know, maybe show starts at in the evening, 10 o'clock, well, whatever time the show starts, to say, okay, at 5 o'clock, this is how I kind of prepare for it. I get into makeup, and then to the point where you like step out on stage. And I know that's a long question, but
Usually starts off with a couple Captain and Cokes. But because it, you know, it takes the edge off the stage fright. Because I still have it. You know, wearing the mask and costume definitely is a bonus, but it always is abnormal for me to go on stage, and I'm still not used to the fact that people give a crap about what it is that I'm a part of. So it definitely is that. But I mean, sometimes I'll spend, if it's a big show and like if it's daytime, you know, because sometimes if you're playing a daytime show, it's less forgiving because there is no lights, there's no shadows to hide in. You know, when you play the small club with crappy lights, it's like, no one's going to see us anyway, who cares? And then it's like, I'll get ready 10 minutes before the show, and sometimes I'm late lacing up my boots and shit. But if it's, you know, a big, you know, outdoor show and we're playing with, you know, big bands, then it's like, all right, I'm going to get ready in 2 hours early and make my arms look all bruised and my neck all crazy because I know that the daylight, it's going to read well. But yeah, I mean, it just depends on the venue, how I'm feeling, what day of the week it is. If it's a weekend show, I'll do more. If it's a Monday show, I'm like, screw it. Sometimes I'll put one contact lens in, you know. So it varies on like that, but it doesn't take long to get ready when you've been doing it for so long. 'Cause especially with the mask, back to like the earlier thing with getting ready quickly. It's literally black out your eyes, shade the neck,
drop it on.
Done.
How about the mental preparation? Is that a ramp up, or? I
really don't have a mental preparation. I let the crowd tell me what I'm going to do. You know, if the crowd's lame, I'm going to be lame. If the crowd's excited, I'm going to climb something and jump off it, you know. So I just kind of it just hits me when I hit the stage, you know. So I know some people are like, they have their routines and they do this and mentally get prepared for stage. I'm like, all right, just go.
You just go.
Just go to do the show.
Describe stepping out on stage. So your makeup, and all of a sudden you're stepping out and right in, and for the first time you're looking out, whether that's a sea of people at a festival during the daytime or whether it's a night show and you don't see a lot but you can hear them. How does, first of all, what's that reaction? Are you like, whoa? Or is it just become this, like you said, it becomes this, you're feeding off the audience, they're feeding off you, so...
Right. Yeah, there is some of that, and then, you know, because there's so many shows that I've done in 19 years, it becomes, not to sound shitty about it, but it becomes a little routine.
Okay.
You know, to where it's like, okay, it's like you're punching in your job. But the coolest job, you know, obviously. You know, big shows like that where it's like a, you know, a festival show or a radio show and there's 15,000 people, you know, you get high off that for sure. You know, when you're playing, you know, the smaller club, it kind of feels like you're going through the motions sometimes a little bit. But I mean, overall, I mean, I get excited every time the crowd's excited. But if the crowd's lame, I'm gonna be like lame. So I mean, I kind of my battery per se gets charged off people's reaction feeding you, because if they're not reacting, you feel like an idiot up there.
Yeah.
Like, why are we, especially when you put all this stuff on, you got this whole serious look and you're trying to be serious, and then there's like, you know, a couple hundred people and they're like quiet, or just the song ends and they're just like clapping. It's like, cut some songs, you know, like, or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of pretty much how it extends for me.
Is your stage fright worse with the smaller audiences or the larger audiences? I suffer. I have a horrible stage fright.
To me, the larger audiences, because to me, when if it's a small crowd, or if it's like a Monday show in the middle of Nebraska and no one's there, you know, not no one, but you know what I mean. But I'll usually drink heavier. So then it's like, all right, we're just gonna make this fun. I'm gonna make this fun for myself here, and then I'll kind of find myself doing more silly things or messing with the crowd more. You gotta turn it around for yourself, you know. But yeah, the larger crowds, I feel like there's more pressure, especially in the daytime, because all eyes are on you, and like I do a lot of like tricks, and I'll throw sticks in the air and like grab them like, with the percussion and stuff, and I usually tend to screw up a lot more on those big shows because I'm trying to show off more and like trying to like really do that extra, like I'm gonna throw this 100 feet up and catch it, and then just completely miss, and like, well, everyone just saw that. So then I'll still play into it, and I'll like flip my stick off and kick it, and I'll still act the role. I won't draw attention to the fact that I screwed up. I'll almost instantly turn it around and be like, I screwed up on purpose.
Yeah.
I don't care what you saw.
Do you have a couple favorite videos?
Music videos of ours?
Yeah, Mushroomhead.
Oh yeah, I mean the first one we ever did, Solitaire Unraveling, still to this day, because it was major budget. I mean, that was Universal Records, and that was the first single that they were putting out. And we got to work with Dean Carr, who's done Tool, Manson. He's got a huge list of and great artist, great visionary, great director. I remember just the camera crane alone was like over $1 million for the damn crane. And it was like a staff of, I don't know, about 100 people. And it was the first time in my life I've ever experienced something where like, they're like, okay, we're ready for, you know, the band, and like you start getting ready, and like people come over and they start tying your boots for you, and like they're painting your necks for you, and I'm just sitting here like, I could do this. And then they still like screw it up, and I'm still like touching up, like, you didn't get down here, like, you know, like, or something like that. But that was just surreal, and the services and the food and just the handlers, like they're constantly people walkie-talkies coming over and like adjusting your shit. It was like, okay, this is like the real deal. Like I've never been a part of anything like that, and especially at age 21 at the time when I joined the band. So that was surreal. All the videos we did with Robert Kurtzman were a great time. Yeah. We did those down at the old Precinct 13. I think they moved locations now. But when they were filming The Rage, and because we were still very much working with Dave Greathouse back then, we got to just come in and use the sets. And we just, because he wanted to use our music for the movies, and we needed a video. Yeah. So like, fair trade. Yeah. Use our music, we'll do the video. And those were cool because those guys, they're great at what they do, and you know, they were lower budget videos for as far as we were concerned, because it was going into something that was already made. But those were a lot of fun, and we got to do some really cool stuff with that. All the videos now we kind of do on our own. Skinny Steve Felton, he does, you know, the directing, visionary side of it and coming up with the concepts. But lately our videos are becoming really cool and really visual and very artsy, as you would call it, to where band doesn't even need to be in it. Just make some cool imagery and cut it to the music and have a couple flashes of band members and stuff like that. But we did one, it's called Devils Be Damned. We did that down at Mansfield Reformatory. That one looked great. The little girl that's in it that was casted, like Skinny had her actually crawling through the tunnels from Shawshank Redemption, because they were just there. So we film that and film like some of that, and then we got in trouble. And then I think since then they now encased it in plexiglass, because now they're like, all right, well, people are gonna use this.
Confident.
Yeah. So
Good
now
job, Mushroomhead.
now, so yeah, that's now in plexiglass. But they're still great. We love them. Everyone down there is great. And then we did a bunch of videos of Fear Experience. The Cordy video was done down there. And that one was cool because I had Skinny come down. He wanted to scout out the building. Because I'm like, I don't know. Because a lot of room, even if a room looks cool, it might look too haunted housey. Yeah. You know, you don't want to look like you're in a haunted house. So we saw that little kid's room that wasn't very big. And he's like, this room's perfect, but it needs to be 30 feet bigger. So they floated the bill. And then I started knocking walls down, and we just extended it. We spent like 3 days and no sleep, just trying to copy it and make it crazier. And then that was really cool because it was like, oh, this is a room that I helped create. Yeah. Now in a music video. And then we did the video for Graveyard du Jour, which is on the home video as well, where we're just in it was like a pill-shaped room, and it was 10 feet by like 10 by 25 or something like that, but it was a pill-shaped room. We had to hide the doors, but it was all covered in Bible pages. So Skinny ordered like a couple thousand Bibles off eBay, you know, different kinds, and we literally spent days with just shellac and tearing Bible and putting them all over the room. And that's all the set was, and the footage, you know, came out great. We ran cold fog in it, and then we ran all the footage backwards and did a lot of that kind of stuff, and just hired some extras. But the stuff that we're doing now on our own is really fun. And then, there's the Evil Dead one too, We Are the Truth. We did that at Fear Experience as well. It was supposed to start off as a facade of the Evil Dead house, and then I was supposed to just make, in an upstairs part in the back of the old department store, I was supposed to make a trap door to simulate the scene when the characters, you know, in the trap door, you know, when she turns, and then Jackie was the character that becomes the Deadite. So I made that and did all that, and then it just eventually grew into making the entire inside of the cabin and literally making it to where you could have lived in the damn thing. And $20,000 later, it was supposed to be a facade, and then it turned into like a whole thing. But then the cool part about that is then it doubled as Fear Experience was able to use it for the attraction, and it got to like stay there and, you know, live on in another sense. We did it keeps coming up to the ones we did ourselves now, because they're just always overly elaborate, because Skinny's just never can be simple. It's always gonna be elaborate, which is awesome. But we did the one on Lake Erie. It was frozen Lake Erie. It's the video Our Apologies, and we did it in the middle of February, and we were 1,000 feet out on the lake. But the lake was like 6 feet frozen, so there was no.
How'd you get out there? Did you drive, or you have snowmobiles?
We walked.
You walked.
It was something. It's awesome looking back at the footage because it looks like we're on Hoth in Star Wars or something, you know. Or people are like, "Where'd you go to film that?" It's Lake Erie in Geneva. Yeah. We just filmed. If you literally, the camera went around, you'd see like the beach houses, you know. Because it was crazy, because there was all kinds of spots where the ice had like broken and like merged up from like everything shifting, and then frozen in its place. Almost looked like Superman's Fortress of Solitude out there or something. But that was a very crazy video because I was freaking out the whole time, because we were so layered up. It was -30 on the ice. Yeah. And
you're out in the middle of wind. And...
Yeah, so we had these thick Russian winter coats and the crazy $200 snow boots, and you're performing, and like you're sweating in your mask. It's so cold you're sweating, and it's just turning to ice. So like I'm in there, and it's like your face is slowly becoming an icicle, and that was a little messed up. It was very cold, and the camera batteries kept dying. They kept getting drone footage, and the drones kept dying. It was just because the cold, you know, everything was just dying. But
that's a great story,
right? But you know, that literally, you know, was, you know, a big production video for a very cheap price. Yeah. Because we just made it happen. Didn't have to use CGI and digitally enhance anything. It was like, no, we're just out on a frozen lake walking.
So, I know that there's probably a whole bunch of folks that are raving Mushroomhead fans, but tell us about some of your other creative projects, including Ventana.
Tell us about the other.
Yeah, the other.
Projects.
So you come back from tour, you unwind, you catch up on sleep, and then.
Oh yeah, then it's right back to today I just announced and booked a Ventana show January 11th at the Fantasy Nightclub. That's our 15-year anniversary of my side project band. Like, it's just crazy how fast time is flying. It's very scary. So there's that. Is usually that only comes into play usually when I'm not touring with Mushroomhead, because I mean Mushroomhead's #1 priority, so it's hard. And with my drummer Dan, he's also in the band Dope. He's also been in Marilyn Manson for a while, so we're constantly ping-ponging on even being home. Now my Ventana guitar player is also in Mushroomhead, so it's becoming harder and harder to do those other things. Aside from that, I'm always planning and preparing with Chippewa Lake Slaughterhouse on what's going on there, because that's another strong passion of mine, the haunted house stuff. So yeah, it's usually like the downtime that I'm not touring, which isn't often, is like I got to crunch all these other things and actually try to have a personal life at the same time. Time to sit on my couch and play video games, but. It's nonstop. Yeah, it'd be like you come home, decompress for a few days, and then it's I got to do all this other crap for my other band, or whatever. Yeah. Luckily, the haunt stuff is pretty much mute right now. It won't even be an issue until spring, but that'll be here before I know it, and then it'll be going crazy trying to juggle that. The summer to the fall is usually the time that I'm completely checked out mentally, because there's so much going on. I don't even know how to juggle it anymore.
Yeah. For those who share this video. Yeah, next week we'll have a chance to draw your name if you share and get a Ventana hat.
Yes.
And 2 CDs.
Yes, the wonderful Ventana beanie hat, and then the 2 albums that we have.
And if you're from Ohio or in any cold weather, a beanie hat.
You'll appreciate it.
You'll appreciate it. Yeah, we'll get that out to you.
Because it's cold.
Nasty.
Bullshit.
Yep.
So if you have any questions, we're going to kind of do some wrapping up, and I know that Beth is kind of arming the phone camera, and there's a lot of viewers and comments and such. We appreciate you guys spending Tuesday evening with us. If you have questions, probably over the next 30 seconds, shoot them out, because we try to keep these things about an hour-ish at its longest.
There's a lot of people raving about the videos. They're loving hearing the backstories about it. Someone said, love the QWERTY video. People tagging other people saying, oh my gosh, they're talking about Mushroomhead videos. Somebody raving about Chippewa Lake Slaughterhouse. Somebody did ask, what are local bands or up-and-coming bands that you are digging right now?
Local bands. There's a really good band called Axioma, spelled A-X-I-O-M-A, I think. Axioma, they're really good. There's also a really good band called the Dawn Lights. They're another awesome band. There's a really young band called Subtype Zero. For their age and for where they're at, they're really, really good too. We put them on a couple of our shows as well. Unfortunately, there's a lot of garbage in the scene, and the bands that think that they're awesome and try to overshadow bands that are actually good. But I usually try to, anytime a band shows real talent, I try to always put them on shows and give them opportunities. But those are the ones that stand out the most in my head right now.
Okay. Somebody asked if you like Post Malone.
Hell no. I don't even understand what that is and why it is and why he's got so many bad face tattoos. I don't get it.
I agree.
I love that. I love the questions.
I don't get it. I don't understand how the modern rapper today looks like the guy at the party that passed out and got his face drawn on. Now they're celebrity rappers, and I don't get that. But...
That's a fabulous way to describe it.
Yeah.
Somebody asked what video games you're playing.
Right now, The Outer Worlds I'm playing. And I have the newest Call of Duty only because I'm so sick of that franchise, but some other friends of mine, we like doing the multiplayer headsets, the smack talking, getting drunk and yelling at 16-year-old
I was going to say, are you a yeller?
Nah, we mostly just insult and throw good insults, at them. Mature insults.
Absolutely.
Mature
polysyllabic insults,
other than that,
I'm sure.
I finished up Days Gone not too long ago, and that was pretty good. But,
cool.
And Far Cry 5. Well, that's already a year ago already at this point, but waiting for Last of Us 2. That's the one I'm really waiting for to come out.
So does wearing a mask, is that good for your personal life, or is it bad for your personal life? I'm talking about, so you're probably recognized by fans.
Yeah.
Maybe super fans, but...
Right, but your general people have no idea who I am, and that's amazing. Because one thing I hate is hiding. Like when we're on tour, I'm always going to be in the club, hanging out, killing time, because I go nuts if I had to be like someone, that couldn't even go to the store to get, a gallon of milk without like, oh my God, just a picture. So that's cool. Around in Ohio, I get it a lot more than anywhere else, getting recognized, but it's pretty much a blessing in disguise to be Clark Kent and Superman. You don't have to be noticed, at all.
I like that. So if there's any last questions, we'll jump in there.
Are you ever interested in making film?
That's a huge responsibility and a huge undertaking to where I don't think I'd ever be able to focus all my efforts to make a film. I've had ideas and I've written things down for like, I wanted to make short films, like 15-minute short films, based on ideas that I have, just to see where those go, because sometimes those 15-minute pieces can take off and someone might have money and go, oh, hey, I really like that idea, let me buy that off you, or whatever. But eventually we plan on developing a film for the haunted house, to tell more of the backstory of it and do like a 45-minute mini movie of that. But I kind of look at all of our music videos as mini films as well. As far as movie goes, I don't know. I don't really think I want to add amateur director to my resume.
Sure.
There's already so many people out there that are great at it, so let them do it.
I like it.
If you were to, I don't know, maybe look back or reflect back, or perhaps give a piece of advice to you as a teenager, maybe, or advice to somebody else who's out here watching, whether they're young or whether they're kind of new in the creative area, as a musician, a visual artist, kind of forward thinker, what are things that what's kind of nice advice for
to not expect immediate results? Be prepared to suffer for a decade or more until like you even start making progress. I mean, I got lucky and got thrown into one of my favorite bands, which gave me a huge stepping stone, catapult, or however you want to put it, into being able to do all these other things. Like if I worked a normal 9-to-5 job, I doubt I would be able to do Ventana, the haunted house, all that stuff. Like it allows me that freedom to be able to do these things. If I wasn't in this position, it would be a lot more difficult for sure. But in anything you do, it's going to take time. A lot of people these days, a lot of younger people, expect instant results. They think like, well, I made a video and put it on YouTube, I should be huge tomorrow, I'm going to be a sensation. It's like, there's already so much stuff out there. You're going to get lost in the void. So you have to be unique, and you have to strive to be able to put the time in. Because if you're not ready to put the time in, suffer, and go broke for your art, you're never going to make it. So unless you have millions of dollars to buy your way to the top, you're not going to get there,
Yeah.
So you have to put the time in. I mean, with any kind of art, you got to put your time in.
That's good advice. Thank you guys for anything closing, any projects, what's coming up for 2020, anything out of the ordinary?
Well, the new Mushroomhead record comes out in 2020. The release date isn't officially set in stone yet. The label, has to decide those things, but it's looking like springtime of 2020, and then I'll have a new Ventana record as well. A couple months after that, I have to, obviously Mushroomhead comes first, and then, the other projects follow. And then a lot of upgrading at Chippewa Lake, expanding that show yet again some more and dialing in more of the theme and the story that we're trying to tell there. Really striving to make that place different than everything else around here. Even though there's great haunted houses everywhere, it's like not a lot of them are sticking to a solid story. They got clowns running around in mausoleums and, vampires and, fucking, I don't know, whatever. I'm trying to, in their carnival scene, they got vampires.
Yeah.
Everything's just backwards, free for all. Like, we're trying really hard to make that a solid theme and a solid show to put that place on the map. So there's a lot of work I'm putting into that with the owner Vaughn.
Yeah.
And he's awesome. He's 100% freedom for me to do whatever, and he gets it. I get it. We all get it together. So a lot of my time's being put into that. And then him and I are talking about opening up a second location as well in the future. And when that becomes a thing, him and I become more partners, and then I'll actually be responsible for running the whole thing over there. So we'll see what happens there. But that's what I'm striving for, because if and when my life ever does end with Mushroomhead touring, who knows what could happen in the next 10 years. I know that I could, if I'm 60 years old, 70 years old, I could still be running a horror show. And, even if I'm chasing kids in a wheelchair, it'll look better when I'm older, because then you don't have to wear less makeup. You just look old and you look awesome. Then your grandpa from Chainsaw Massacre,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for sharing. Next week we're going to draw a name out for everybody who shared for the
Ventana swag.
For the CDs.
You know what I mean?
The beanie hat.
Is it completely inappropriate for me to say, well, we'll pull one of those out and you can at least sign it so they got some?
Yeah, I can sign it. If they want it ruined, I'll sign it.
You want it ruined? So at least one of those will be autographed as well. Thank you, Rick, for joining us Tuesday at 7. Thank you, Beth, for moderating. And keep an eye out, because we have several cool guests coming up for the next several weeks. I don't announce them too early, although maybe I'll announce the whole month ahead of time. Maybe that'll be. Anyways, we'll figure that out. Thanks again, and have a great week, guys.